What is up, my friends, and how's it going? And welcome back to the third episode of our Let's Play Sweboz series with your fellow comrade Summary. In the previous episode, we managed to consolidate Western Germania. We pushed against the Rugos, capturing their capital settlement of Rugion, and then we even pushed down in the south across westwards into Hercynia, capturing the settlement of Burzes from them. We even declared war against the Cimbros, managing to conquer Alabu, and then we performed a pincer movement, securing Tulifordum for ourselves, and finally we pushed on into Flevum, thereby securing our western frontier along the Rhine River. And of course, the main focus of this episode will be focusing on consolidating the eastern Germanic heartlands such as Lugia. However, the situation in Lugia isn't as simple as it seems. The states that are within Lugia have a lot of alliances, like the Lugos over here themselves have an alliance with the Inguiones. Meanwhile, the Arii, who were at war with the Budini, have liberated Buria. So the Buri, are in an alliance with them, and if I kind of declare war against these guys directly, I might enter a multiple war situation. However, with that being said, a quick look at our building provinces. As you can see in Magna Germania, we're just going for a very balanced build, and we're building some of the key buildings that we require, such as the Grove of Tewaz, which gives us access to, of course, our Champions of Tewaz, which is eventually the unit we'd like to have within our armies. And of course, if we take a look at Swabia, once again, a very balanced kind of a build. And over here, we are going to focus on upgrading into the amber market so that we get access to the Arii Knight Strikers, which are similar to the champions of Tewaz. However, they do draw themselves from the second class population, making them a bit more cost effective in my opinion as far as population class is concerned. However, Hercynia is going to be converted slowly into our major food province. Of course, we do have a horse pens over here, which means we have kind of built up our armies with, of course, cavalry at long last. As you remember, in the previous two episodes, we did not have cavalry in our armies. And speaking of our armies, as you can see, we are slowly changing up the composition of our armies. We've gotten rid of all of our Levy tier chatty spearmen and replaced them with the infamous Cheruski pikemen, which are very similar to the Macedonian phalanx. However, these guys do not have a shield, so they're even more susceptible to missile fire, so we got to be very, very careful of that. However, that being said, let us take a look at our politics. In the politics, as far as that is concerned, in the previous episode, we managed to assassinate Chlorokar, thereby getting Baldwin in charge of the Sweboz. Now, Baldwin himself is magnanimous, which gives us the beloved faction leader, and I'm surprised that he's the engaged faction leader. So I always get confused with the influence and of course the faction leader. However, it's giving us the engaged faction leader, which is the second best type of faction leader you could hope for. You might notice some changes in the UI, and that is because I am constantly upgrading my cultural UI mod, the beta version, which will eventually be integrated into the main version. Of course, you can see we're adding some Germanic flavor to the characters over here. Really liking how that looks. However, eventually we do want to replace Baldwin himself, and we don't have to do it violently as in the case we did with Chlorokar, but we can transition peacefully if we do get a male character with a positive trait, like we do have one over here, Folko, who is virtuous, and he is in charge of our second army, Harjas to Tenterijos. And of course, with Folko, we could make him, the faction leader by kind of assassinating Baldwin. So it's just going to be a series of assassinations. However, I'm not too keen on doing it just yet. The reason being is that Baldwin is quite leveled up and is looking quite good. Meanwhile, although Folko could be a much better faction leader, in my opinion, so I might actually consider it, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Meanwhile, as far as our political rivals are concerned, they all seem to be fairly loyal, so things are looking quite good across our realm, and our food situation is very, very healthy. We are 28 food. Our economy is not where I would like it to be. However, after we consolidate our control over the province of Lugia, our economy should, be a lot more robust, because we will then have at least 4 provinces within our control. We will have the entirety of Magna Germania, Swabia, Lugia and Hercynia by the end of this episode. So I'm going to go ahead and start province specialization. For those of you who have seen some of my previous Let's Play series, you know that I love to specialize my provinces, and this is in fact even more powerful in the 1.3.4 public beta, as I will showcase as of course the Let's Play series progresses. However, keep in mind it can get even more absurd if you're playing as a Celtic faction, because they do have some buildings that offer even more ridiculous bonuses, especially to your industrial output. However, the idea will be to get Lugia into our economic province, at least for the early game, and then we are going to focus on making Swabia our main recruitment province. Hercynia and Magna Germania will be our food generating provinces, although they are not ideal for food generation since we don't really have that much of a big realm. Initially we will have to rely on Magna Germania and Hercynia as our food generation provinces. Meanwhile, a quick look down south over here. I think I have a spy in the area, and I am going to move him towards Roma because I do want to get a line of sight on Roma itself, and I do want to initiate diplomatic treaties with Roma. Now, you guys might not be fully for this, but I kind of like to ally myself with Roma in the early game. Not ally, but at least have positive relationships with them to prevent them from declaring war against me, be a little bit more cautious. And at the same time, I really stand a lot to benefit from trade with them, because they have some key critical resources that I need to build up my economy. So in the early game, as a barbarian faction, if you can, I possibly do recommend allying yourself with the Romans, or at least establishing good diplomatic treaties with them so that you can build up your power base, and then when the time is right, backstab them as any barbarian would. One other thing you might have noticed, if you guys have a keen eye, is that I have re-enabled the trade lines in my graphics mod that is available in my Discord channel. Of course, it's also available alongside my reshades and with a tutorial on how to install them, of course. But the reason why I re-enabled at least the trade lines is because I do find the trade lines to be a little bit strategic in informing you of your trade income. If we take a very quick look at our income, as of course you can see our taxations are pretty high. Our trade is at least 25% of our overall income, so it's pretty significant. And by basically opening this trade tab, trade and finance tab over here, we can get an idea of what kind of goods we have and what kind of goods we're trading with, what kind of partners we're trading with, how much we're making out of them. And I like to keep a close eye on this myself, just so that I can maximize my trade income in the early game, which is quite important. However, as the game progresses, your trade income is not going to be that substantial. However, in the early game, you definitely want that trade income. Let's go ahead, upgrade all of the characters that we can upgrade. And now back into the situation in the east, in Lugia. We are going to declare war against these guys. However, before we do that, a very quick look at, of course, our technology, because it seems like we can research a technology, and I think we had just completed the craft specialization, as I did intend to build up the amber market, and I kind of did. And so now I am going to focus on something else. Let's take a quick look over here. Food seems to be very good, so I could get the raised site and eventually even the slave market. That will be a very good thing. Or I could focus on the lore master's hut. That is also really great. Anything within the tribal council is usually the civil tree. I prefer to research first because it gives you big bonuses to your tax rate, big bonuses to your empire maintenance, big bonus to your cultural conversion, and most importantly gives you access to the bardic circle building or the lore master hub upgrades, which further improves your research rate. So what that means is it's going to be an opportunity cost to reduce the amount of research time you need in other trees. If you focus on other trees first before you can get your Lore Master's hut or your Bardic Circle, then of course you're playing a little bit inefficiently. It's not going to be that much of a big deal, but of course every turn counts when it comes to technology, as having a very robust technology means that you're going to be able to snowball your realm, your armies, your economy, many things. So I think for now the play would be to go for stargazing, at least stargazing, maybe not I'm sorry, not stargazing, at least Sacred Grove, perhaps not stargazing. And the reason being is I do want to get that raised site and I do want to get fertilization, so I kind of want to spread it out evenly rather than just focus or tunnel vision on a very particular path, because of course of the incremental times it takes to research a technology. So you want to kind of spread out your technology in the early game, and towards the mid to late game you can pretty much focus on one tree depending on of course the situation within your country. Do you need more professional armies? Then you can pretty much go tunnel vision on some of your military technologies. Do you need more food? Then you can pretty much go on to some of your more tribal economy, where it focuses on your food generation as well as of course your agricultural income, as well as of course your commercial income. However, if you're looking to boost your cultural conversion, party loyalties, empire maintenance, then you can focus on the tribal council. And if you're looking for the maximized growth rate and building potential, then construction of course makes sense. So in the early game you kind of want to balance it out, kind of like how you set up your provinces. However, as the game progresses, we will start to be more specific with our research. However, we have kind of deviated a lot from what is the main focus of this episode, so let's hop right into it. We are going to declare war against the Lugos. We have gone ahead and broken all of our agreements with them. We pretty much have no standing agreements with any of these Germanic tribes to the east, and they're all kind of interlocked with alliances with each other. However, the Budini are going to be our saving grace because they happen to be at war with everyone in the region, so we're going to kind of use them as much as they can before they kind of get wiped out from the game. We're going to use them to kind of ask them to join a war against our adversaries without having to face off against, of course, their allies. So let's go ahead. We can even get some money for this. And so we are at war with the Lugos. We can go ahead, put up our king all the way up front, get him all the way to Budorgis. Now I could potentially attack them with 2 armies, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, because that will actually reduce the amount of casualties I take. We go on that defensive stand. Go ahead, just peacefully occupy, because it is Germanic culture, which means we will inherit the population of the region. And what we are going to do straight away is dismantle all of the military buildings. This is going to be our major economic province. So for now, we really want to dismantle all of the buildings that are not, of our interest as far as economy is concerned. However, character has leveled up over here. We want to get the Stalworth Horde Defenders, and we want to get the Rapine Plunderers, as well as the Frontier Conquerors. So yep, with that I think I might be done with this turn. I think one final thing to do would be to kind of explore a little bit of what is going on over here. The Lugos themselves haven't been wiped out. We have a new character personality. Alright, our king has kind of promoted in terms of his brawler, which is kind of nice. New military traditions. Okay, just going through each and every single one of these. So we are at war with the Lugos. We haven't been able to wipe out the faction. They are situated close to the settlement of Aestii, so they're pretty far off. They're all the way up here in Chronos, so by the time they reach us, we should be able to be in a very good position to defend Budorgis. However, up here, I'm going to quickly see what I can recruit as far as our army composition is concerned. Having 5 archers, Germanic or Swaby archers, is not really required, so eventually we might want to bump that down to 3 or 4 of them, and we will slowly want to replace and fill out our army with some more melee troops. As you can see, we are kind of short when it comes to melee troops. We only have the champions of Tivas for now in that army, and of course in Harjas to Tenterejos we only have 1 unit of Germanic mercenary bear warrior, and we definitely want to want to change that situation. So we would most likely want to get some axemen, and I'm thinking the chatty axemen is the way to go. Quick look at the populations in each of the settlement. It seems like Lupfordum has the lowest amount of second class population, so I'm going to focus on getting that second class population all the way over here with, of course, the Cheruski axemen. I want to get a couple of these axemen, maybe 3 or 4, but actually, you know what, my economy is looking really bad, so I'm not going to do that for now. Another thing you guys must have noticed if you have a keen eye is that I have gone ahead and updated even the icons on the mini-map over here, so that it's very easy to identify where your armies are, where your dignitaries are, of course where's your spies, where are your champions. Most likely they will always be in an army if you're playing them right, and of course your fleets as well. And this is also kind of reflected in the overall strategic map. So you can see over here, previously it was all white. Red is for, you know, hostile factions that are at war with you. Blue is for allies such as defensive allies, military allies, or even client states and satrapies. That all is still the same. However, for your own, instead of it being a dull white color, it's got a little bit of a shade to it, making it a lot easier on the eye and a lot easier to pick them out by just simply looking at them on the minimap. As you know, they kind of look different from each other, and as such you don't have to bother about, you know, trying to figure out which one of these are which. However, that being said, let us go ahead and end the turn, and I will see you all in the next turn, where we will try to push our offensive eastward and defeat the Arii as well. Okay, so here we are in the next turn. Some pirates have been spotted. Piracy is going to be a situation we can't pretty much deal with in the early game, because we don't have a fleet, and we really don't want to focus on, you know, spending much of our precious income, which is really low in the early game, trying to build up a fleet, of course. So in the early game we're going to have to just bite the bullet and, you know, face all that pirate stuff. However, as the game progresses, we can have quite a formidable navy, and then we can deal with the piracy situation. Meanwhile, let's take a quick look at, of course, all of our notifications. Factions being destroyed, Basilion, Odricion, poor guys. Another faction, the Carnutes, has been destroyed. So it seems like the Averni, just off the corner of my eye, are growing in strength, which should make for a very interesting invasion of Gallia. However, the main focus, of course, is to get in touch with the Romans, and for that we're going to need to move our spy into Cisalpine Gaul down south, and there we have it. We have the Romans now in sight, and what we are going to do is, because the Romans, as you can see, they have a lot of resources that we do not have, of course, being in the southern Mediterranean. They have olive oil, they have of course livestock. I mean, we can get access to livestock, it's not that hard, but what they have that's important is wine and salt. And now these are two important buildings to build up you know, your buildings, your economy, or two important resources rather. And the problem with Roma is that they're not going to be likely to establish any treaties with you, but you can kind of remedy that by offering to join a war against Carthage, and you really don't care about Carthage because they're all so far away. And then if you offer your trade agreement possibly in the next turn or so, Roma should be more than happy to accept it. So that is pretty much what we're going to do. We're going to try to improve our relationships with the Romans. Let's take a quick look over here. The neutral, the war with Carthage is going to help out significantly. Maybe we can even try to establish a non-aggression. Okay, they will not agree in this turn, but however, in the next turn, they most definitely will. That being said, of course, there's nothing much to do militarily in this turn, so we're going to just focus on our buildings. Starting off with Bedorgis, of course we want to get the central slave pens as quickly as we possibly can, because of course the slave trader is going to help us boost up our economy by focusing, of course, on that slave economy, as I often you know, strongly recommend. The next thing we want to do is we want to make you know, Lugia into an economic province, and we are going to focus on an industrial kind of a build, because of course you know, it is very much catered towards industry. So if you take a look at, of course, our resources, let's take a look at amber. Amber is more of a commercial good, and in fact you know, it does give a lot more wealth from commerce. So I don't know if we want to go commercial. However, the main thing with amber, with industry, or the main advantage of industry, let's take a look at, of course, this over here. So, okay, leather is industry, and it does give a manufacturing wealth in all regions for industry, and that's the main thing what I would like to talk about when it comes to industry. And we definitely want to build this one over this one. And the reason being is you definitely want to take a look at the bonuses rather than the raw income output. So if you take a look at, of course, the leather factory, you're getting the 800 wealth from manufacturing industry. Same with the leather master leather worker. However, the bonus of the master leather worker is the +8 wealth to all commerce, which doesn't stack nicely with, of course, industry. So you want to go for the leather factory, which does give you a +8 wealth from all industry. What's more important is that these leather settlements, as you upgrade them, they do give wealth to manufacturing industry in all regions, +8 to all regions. Now, all regions means all regions within your realm. Okay, so if it says something like, I don't know how to go about this, but okay, here we go. Let's take a look at river drainage. Okay, it gives 12% +12 sanitation to regions in this province. So it's only limited to each and every single region within the province of Swabia. Of course, it applies to each of the regions. So you get +12 in Lupfurdum, you get +12 in Rugion, you get +12 in Ascaucalis, and if you own Vistula, you get +12 there too. So it's quite powerful, but it's only limited to within the province itself. The other thing you end up having is something like that offers just within the region, and the best example of that I think is temples, for example. So now if you take a look at the sanitation of a temple, it just says region in the bracket, +4 sanitation region. What this means is that the temple of Tivas, which is giving +2 sanitation, is only going to give it in the region of Tulifurdum, not Alabu and Flavum. So when it comes to sanitation across the province, then obviously it makes more sense to go for a sewage ditch as opposed to, of course, a temple. However, the public order per turn doesn't have anything in the brackets. It applies to the entire province because public order is, based on the entire province and not just on a single region, of course. And food, etc., is similar like that, like your +4 food, obviously, because it's not every region that produces food. Technically, it's the entire province of Magna Germania in this example. Now, the important thing, of course, when it comes to industry with the 1.3.4 public beta is wooden buildings or timber buildings. Now, timber buildings are extremely powerful because if you take a look at the timber trade camp, I believe, take a look at that bonus. 24 wealth from industry in all regions. That means across your empire. So pretty much if I own 4 timber settlements, so if I have to think about it, okay, Ascaucalis is one, another one over here is Segestica, we can't see it right now. Another timber region is, they're pretty far from, oh yeah, we have one here in Namnetum. So that's already 3 timber regions, right? And apart from that, of course, if you take a look at Ascaucalis and the timber resource building itself, the timber trade hub gives another 8% wealth from industry in all provinces. So 24 + 8, that's 32. 32 times 3, let's say we own these 3 regions. That is, why is my math bad? 96%, all right? So then with 96%, you might be wondering earlier when I kind of compared the 2 buildings, the Amber Jeweler and the Amber Trade Network. The Amber Trade Network is making double the amount in commerce, which is, 1,600 wealth. Meanwhile, the Amber Jeweler is only making 800, which is half of that. However, with, of course, the modifiers from your industrial, output due to owning timber settlements, you're going to bump that up by 96%, which is almost 100%, which translates into double. So you're going to make that essentially 1,600 wealth from manufacturing industry. And of course, that's only going to get more ridiculous the more amount of timber regions you actually control. And you can pretty much put this, you can even gain up to 300 percent wealth from timber, and that's not even counting, of course, the leather settlements that give another +8 wealth from all industry. And I do have one over here in Gelenos. There's even one up here north in Din Aden, so that's another at least 24%. So you're looking at 120%. So that 800 manufacturing times 120% more is going to be around 2,000. I'm guessing 1,800 or 2,000 wealth as opposed to 1,600. So quite clearly the amber jeweler will become more powerful as, of course, you expand. So that's the reason why we go for industry. But that being said, of course, our main focus over here is what to get as far as building is concerned. Now, when it comes to buildings, of course, the barbarians very interesting in that they can build the farming chain within their main settlements, like Bedorgas, for example. And among the farming chains, you have 3 main buildings that can impact your economic output. Of course, you have the salt workshop, and this is mainly for agriculture, and it's very powerful, as I will show you in the future, of course. But for now, we're going to talk about the clay pit and one other option that's not available to the Germanic factions, and that is the goldsmith. So we only have the clay pit, and the clay pit does give you some wealth from industry, which is +8 wealth from industry from the commercial stimulation edict, and it also gives you 400 wealth as a raw magnitude, which is kind of nice but not that amazing. In comparison, the goldsmith gives you 800 wealth as a magnitude of wealth that you're earning, so that's double the potter's workshop. And as far as wealth from industry is concerned, I believe it's 16% wealth from industry. So it's double that wealth. So let's say you build 4 goldsmiths in, the province of Lugia. 16 times 4. That is 32 times 2. That's 64. 64 on top of the 120. That's 180 wealth. So that means your amber building of the amber jeweler is going to make 2,400, guys. So that's just how powerful industry is in 1.3.4 public beta. It's really barbarian friendly, if I should say so, because Hellenic factions really focus on commerce. But then, of course, you can always just flip around a little bit when it comes to, not being able to optimize it entirely, I guess, but still being powerful, way more powerful than what Hellenic factions had in 1.3.3, I guess. However, with that, let's go ahead and end this turn, and I will see you all in the next turn when I'm about to attack the Arii. Alright, welcome to the next turn. Let's go ahead and turn off the notifications. Some characters have increased in rank. Let us go for them. Try to promote them. Of course, we want to improve our tax rates as much as we can. And then we want to focus, of course, on the industry, because of course we are going to focus on industry, which is another +15 wealth from local industries. We're just stacking modifiers as much as we can. And even a shield maiden within Harjas 1. Sweboz has leveled up, so we can actually go for the army upkeep cost reduction. Economy is starting to slowly change, and in all the talking in the previous episode, I almost risked getting a slump because I actually forgot to build this option over here. Now I could go for the potter's workshop. What that will do is that it will increase the squalor of my region. So typically the first thing you want to build is, of course, your sewage ditch to counteract that, so that your growth rate is going to be on the rise. However, that being said, we are going to go ahead and attack Bells. Hopefully the Budini are still around. They're just hanging on by with their lives, I guess. And we're going to ask them for some more money, because why not? I mean, they're probably broke, but I don't really care at this point. I'm just going to try to keep pushing into them. So let's just go ahead, send Baldwin all the way towards Bells. This army should be pretty weak. And as you can see, the auto-resolve is going to look quite good if we get our second army in to support them. And we're going to move up a little bit closer. And the auto-resolve is pretty decent. We're going to go ahead, attack. And I forgot to see the population class, but I'm pretty sure Bells got sacked, so it's lost a lot of his population. What we're going to do is we're going to sack the settlement of Bells, and then we are going to ask them to join our faction. And they will join. They might have an army or so, so I don't want to actually inherit one of their characters, so just let's take a quick look. Alright, they definitely don't have a fleet. If you have slots left for you know, your armies or your navies, the faction that you confederate, their armies and navies become your armies and navies, and that's not really necessarily good, I mean, for my OCD's sake, but more importantly, I will get characters with possibly very bad skill ups, and you know, they'll just be more of a nuisance as they will always join your political rivals. So let's just go ahead, put up this peace treaty, and now we have the settlement of Bells under our control. And quick look at the population. Wow, they actually have quite a lot of population there, so sacking them was perhaps not the best choice, but since we actually peacefully annexed them, well, peacefully in quotation marks, we will not suffer that much. Meanwhile, the faction of Bells itself will of course be destroyed, and it should have appeared over here. I don't know why it hasn't appeared, but maybe it doesn't count it as destroyed since, of course, we integrated them peacefully. Let's go ahead and dismantle all of the buildings over here in Bells. We're going to focus on, of course, slowly moving in our characters. We have a couple of characters that we will want to move in eventually. Our governor generals, of course, into the settlements of Bodorges. We want to move another governor general into the settlement of, you know, Bells as well. And eventually we want to have governor generals everywhere if possible. However, with that, as you can see, economy, treasury is looking quite good. Income is also looking quite decent, and most importantly, we have completed building the temple of Tevas. So let's go ahead and get those champions of Tevas. What I want to get is, I want to get 2 of these, or at least 4 of these guys. So we can get 3 right now over here in Tulifordum. Then we're going to march up north, get a couple more in Alabu itself, and then we're going to march eastwards and you know, reassign all of these units into our armies. So I want 2 champions of Tevas, 2 of course the Arii Night Strikers, and maybe 2 of the Cherusci Axemen. Let's not forget the Cherusci Axemen. So let's get 4 over here. Perfect. And so we'll have 6 units for each army. So we'll have to recompose our army a little bit. So we get rid of a couple of archers. We could get rid of 1 pike unit, although I'm not too much in favor of doing that. You know what? I'm just going to get 2 Cherusci Axemen for now. So it's just, I will have to get rid of 5 units, and the 5 units I will be getting rid of is probably a couple of these archers, so that's 2. Maybe 1 spear unit, that's 3, and we need a couple more, so we'll see how that goes in the future. However, quick look at all of our provinces just to make sure that we are building things up properly. And you know what, this is going to be a food province eventually, so I actually don't mind building up some Cherusci Axemen over here instead of depleting the population class in, of course, Ascaucalis. So that's definitely it. We can even upgrade the weaponsmith, but it's too expensive to do that, so I'm not going to bother with it for now. Apart from that, I just want to check if these buildings give wealth to industry in all regions. No, it does not. So okay, now a quick look at our politics as well as our political characters. Political characters pretty much all leveled up, so that's good. We can send Linza on a leisure time to improve her cunning, of course. And in the next turn, she should be 11, 10, 11, which is kind of nice. Quick look at Baldwin. Can he educate anyone? He can educate our factionaire. Hopefully he becomes really good in as far as you know, traits are concerned, so that we get a very good faction leader in the future, of course. But of course the game is very, very unforgiving when it comes to that. The last thing we're going to have a look at is, of course, our diplomacy, because primarily I want to establish agreements with Rome, and there you have it, trade agreement. Can we get a defensive? No, we can get a non-aggression, we can get a military access, and we can get a lot of money. So typically they pay us 10,000 for this. And there you have it. We have trade with Roma, so that's good. Some trade has been established. Are the Dorsi at war with them? No, so we're going to establish trade with the Dorsi as well. Try to get a lot of money. We've discovered quite a lot of the map, of course, just by simply, engaging in trade with Roma. A lot of players like to, build up a fleet and then start exploring the whole map. What I do is I just basically, make diplomatic treaties like this, and through that I can easily establish a lot of trade agreements. So shouldn't be too hard to slowly but surely fill in the map, especially if you're doing the diplomatic way. It's a lot faster, in my opinion, than doing it manually with a fleet. And of course, if you forget to move, then you kind of missed out on that opportunity to discover more in that turn. However, that being said, let's go ahead, end the turn, and I will see you all in the future. Our next target is going to be the Buri, and once we completely attack the Buri, we're going to go for the Aestii, of course. The Lugos are seemingly trying to move around the map and trying to hit us all the way in Ascaucalis, so we're going to have to be very careful about that. And you might have noticed also the map has been updated. I have updated the map with accurate settlement locations, accurate trails, accurate geographic features like forests as well as mountains. So yeah, quite a lot of things that I've done for this 1.3.4 public beta. So let's go ahead, end the turn, and we'll see you in the next turn. Alright, welcome to a couple of turns in the future. We've completed a research, some characters have returned home. Let's take a look at all of our notifications. Very quick look at our politics, just make sure our rival parties aren't too unhappy with us. Characters also seem to be fine, but we want to keep building up their gravitas, and the way to do it is to see if they have some gravitas abilities. Wow, this ability is actually pretty good. It gives you +2 gravitas per turn. And more importantly, +4 chance to have children, and the most important of course is that +8 melee attack for all units against barbarians. That's going to be really good. I guess temporarily we can give it to some of these characters over here so that they gain some gravitas, but we are going to shift it to a general eventually. We can get some food as well. Right now we want to maximize the amount of gravitas these characters have. And in order to do that, we can actually organize games, so we can even send an emissary. So we're going to do a bit of both so that we don't repeat actions in the same turn, as they have incremental costs, of course. And by doing that, they get a little bit more gravitas, as you can see, and we're going to keep doing that. The downside is, of course, we lose some loyalty with our political rivals, but they're fairly loyal, so we don't really care for now. But for now, we are at war with the Buri. We have joined the war against them, and we are in an ambush stance waiting for them to attack us. So we're just going to move a little bit closer over here towards Bells. Quick look at, of course, our diplomacy map, because I do want to keep an eye on the Lugos and their whereabouts. They do have an army over here that's really far away in the far eastern deserts, forests of, I'm guessing, what is Ukraine? Maybe Poland? Not entirely sure. However, let's take a look at Harajas 3 Katijos. We have gotten both of our Cheruski Axemen. We just need one more Champions of Tivas. So let's go ahead, get that Champions of Tivas. Quick look at our buildings. Everything seems to be going quite well. And of course, we have disbanded 2 of our Governor Generals. We are going to redeploy them in Lugia, of course, and starting with Randolph, we're going to reinstate the legacy of Frijos, Lugijos, and that basically means the Duke of Lugia. And of course, we are going to reinstate Harmut as the Turonas of Belzos. I believe that's pronounced as a T, or TH, Tuidinos. Tuirinas, Belzos, and so as you can see, we have now built up as well in Bells. We don't need a temple for now. What we need is the enclosed land, of course, and what we are going to focus on is building a silver mine that gives 1,600 wealth from industry. A very good thing to have. Jewel hub. 4% wealth from commerce in all provinces. That's pretty good, however not as powerful as the industrial bonuses, unfortunately. And of course, the other building is going to be the Potter's Workshop, of course. Since we have completed technology, let us actually focus on some party loyalty and some taxation for now, or we could even go down the route of tax labor. I'm guessing I want to get the raised site because it does give me that level 3 building. So let's actually get the raised site first, since we have enough food. Meanwhile, we're also starting to move our dignitary into the province of Lugia, so that we can deploy him there and get a little bit more income from Lugia. And if we take a quick look at our economy, we just have conquered 2 settlements or 2 regions within Lugia, and it's already 50% of Swabia, and it's just going to get even more powerful, guys. Just wait and see. Of course, we do have the opportunity to attack over here, but we will take quite a bit of losses. Let's take a look at the garrison of Gelenos. It's not that formidable, so we might as well attack, and it's going to be winter the next turn, so let's just go ahead and attack them. And what we are going to do is just move in our other army. I hope the auto-resolve is favorable. Okay, it's pretty favorable. Let's go ahead, auto-resolve this one as well. And we're going to sack it a little bit. And quick look at our Imperium level. We're nowhere close to the next Imperium level, so we're going to offer them peace and joining a confederation, as this is probably the best way to do it. You don't get any public order penalties, and you get some money as well, so why not? And there you have it. We have Gelenos as well, in charge of Gelenos. Since they were recently released, I don't think they have a lot of population. However, they do have a decent enough population, so let's go ahead and replenish over there. We can retain this building because we can convert it into a porter's workshop. We're going to dismantle the stables meanwhile. What we are also going to do is just going to move our spy up north, as we are going to focus on the Aestii next, and that's going to be our final target for not the episode, but for, of course, consolidating Lugia. Final target of the episode is, of course, going to be the Inguiones. They do happen to have an army in the heartlands of my realm, so we're going to have to figure out how we navigate that. Meanwhile, our spy over here, we can send him down south into the Balkans, try to get some line of sight of some other factions, establish some more trade agreements. And since we have established trade with Roma, as you can see, our trade now is pretty insane. It's more than 50, it's about 35% of our overall economy, and that's quite significant considering our net income is 2,400 per turn. That means at least 800 of it is coming out of trade. I know it's not much in terms of income as opposed to some of my other, playthroughs, but of course we're still in the early game, so we still have quite a lot to achieve. Meanwhile, we can establish a trade agreement with the Scythians. I have no interest in Scythian lands for now, so let's establish a trade agreement and a non-aggression. They'll pay us for it. Meanwhile, we can do the same for the Baronastos. Great. Let's keep doing that. I think the Macedonians are actually in a very powerful position. Let's go ahead, get some trade agreements with the faction that they have released over here, quite obviously defeating the Odrysian kingdom, and we can get a lot more money. And let's see, with Bithynia, can we establish a trade agreement with you? So we're just going to keep establishing trade agreements, and we're going to make even more money from trade. Athens is always willing to do trade, so let's actually try to get some money out of them as well at the Antigonids. Let's go ahead, get that trade agreement. So we kind of have discovered the Balkans, really, thanks to, of course, conquering the settlement of Gelenos. So we have pretty much all of the trade agreements we want. We can even get some with Rhodos. Let's go ahead and do that. Oopsie, I think I asked a bit too much. Let's ask for 4,000. There we have it, trade with Rhodos. Which means we can even trade with the Ptolemy, which is another very powerful faction to trade with. Let's see, trade agreement. It's moderate, so I'm guessing around 6,000 is what they usually go for. Nope, so they're gonna pay us a lot less. Let's see, 4,000. Okay, that seems reasonable. We can also get a trade agreement with the Sequani, who are our neighbors across the Rhine. Let's see if they will agree. They are not interested. Okay, fantastic. So once again, looking at our trade now, our trade is, 44% of our overall income. and that's pretty powerful. As you can see, we'll take a look at our trade and finance. Of course, we're starting to get a bit more resources that are filling in over here. We have access to lead, but I don't know if silver is a trade resource. I think silver should be a trade resource. That's iron. Okay, so I guess silver and lead is... no, silver is a trade resource. So, yep, definitely, you know, we're gonna have to select one or the other. Of course, if we go down the main tree, it's gonna give us silver. The only way to get lead is from the lead depository. But unfortunately, we will have to go for the silver mine complex. We can eventually get lead from our gold building instead. We can get it from the lead repository over here. However, with that, we are done with this turn. So let's go ahead, end this turn, and in the future, we are going to resume the campaign again, or the episode again, when we are ready to attack the Aestii, of course. Alright, welcome to the future. Our army that was concealed has been spotted. Unfortunately, we had moved our army, Harjas 1 Sweboz, towards the Aestii. We declared war against them. We were in an ambush stance awaiting over here in the forest. Unfortunately, we have been discovered by the Aestii, and they have gone ahead and set up a fortified stance over there. Thankfully, of course, the Lugii, by the looks of it, have been destroyed, so we can actually go ahead and reinforce with Harjas 2 Tenterijos. So that is of course going to be great news. We can even try to assassinate this character. 16% chance. I'm liking that. Okay, so the character is assassinated, which means we could perhaps just wait, and then in the next turn we can attack with both armies, or we can go on the complete offensive, attack him with our faction leader, and he should have a significant morale penalty. However, before we go ahead and do that, let us quickly take a look at our realm and our buildings. We are slowly specializing our provinces. As you can see, I've dismantled some buildings and started building some others. We are focusing on converting this eventually into a food province. Meanwhile, over here we can upgrade this into the leather factory for that wealth from industry, as well as the modifier to the wealth from industry. Go ahead, build a clay pit over here, and since we have completed our research, we can even upgrade some of these buildings over here. We can upgrade the building of Flavum himself. We're not going to upgrade Alabu and Tolufordum yet because our food could suffer quite significantly, so we are just going to hold off on that. Meanwhile, could we upgrade this? I mean, we could, but I don't want to suffer as far as my food is concerned. In fact, our economy is looking quite good, so I could in fact just dismantle it, but we have a bunch of pirates outside Rugion, so I'm just gonna leave it as is. With that, province management is secure. Our political parties are fairly loyal, with the exception, of course, of the Marsi chieftains. However, they're not too disloyal, so I'm not yet concerned about them. And the reason they're turning disloyal is because I am doing a lot of actions, political actions, to improve the gravitas of these characters. Some of the kids are, you know, obviously they're growing in age, so once they come of age, I will need a lot of gravitas to promote their skills and their attributes. However, for now, I am pretty happy with where they are at. We're just going to constantly check for any gravitas gaining abilities. Right, this does give gravitas +2 gravitas per turn, so it might be a good thing to get that. For this character especially, because then she can gain 4 gravitas per turn, which is quite a lot. So if you take 10 turns, that's 140 gravitas. However, apart from that, we have managed to get our dignitary into Lugia. We're starting to really make some money out of Lugia. As you can see, we're making 3,800. It's pretty much the combined economy of the other provinces. And over here, the taxation is turned off for some reason. Nope, it's the banditry for sure. Missing taxes. Okay, that's fine. If we had taxes over there, we would be making a little bit more money in this turn. However, we do not. Just quick look to see diplomacy, if we can establish any more trade agreements. We cannot. Alright, perfect. Just gonna make sure I've seen everything before I go ahead and fight this battle. And of course, technology. We haven't yet researched technology. We've just finished Ray's site. What we can focus on next is perhaps going for the Capellation Furnace that gives +2 loyalty for all political parties, +1 influence, and of course the Mint subsequently does give +2 tax rate as well. But I think the more important thing is to go for stargazing, and the reason being is that it allows you to upgrade your healer's hut into a shaman's hut. Now this is the healer's hut over here, and what it gives you is +4 public order per turn sanitation, and this means it's only within the region, so it doesn't apply to the entire province. The shaman's hut, apart from that, the most important thing it gives is +4 growth per turn, and of course it also gives +4 sanitation for regions in province, so it does give a +4 to the entire province as well. So pretty much in Uburzis, since we are building it in Uburzis, we'll get +8 sanitation, and in the rest of the province we will get +4 sanitation. However, the growth rate of +4 and the growth rate of +8 is going to be absolutely important to grow or build our provinces as quickly as possible. Apart from that, I am reforming the groove of Tevas into the groove of Frijo, because the groove of Frijo likewise gives the maximum public order per turn as well as that growth rate, and I no longer need to recruit champions of Tevas anymore, since I have recruited all of them already for my armies, or at least for now, so I don't need that recruitment building. And of course we also get 400 wealth from entertainment culture, which acts kind of nicely to counteract the negative regional wealth of -10%. However, over here we have gone ahead and dismantled our stable, since we don't need any more cavalry units to recruit at the moment, and we are building it instead with a sewage ditch to improve our sanitation throughout the region, of course, and of course our growth rate, since we are going to focus a lot on our growth rate. Speaking of growth rate, let's take a look at the growth rate map. As you can see, 90% in Herkinia, only 47% in Swabia. We're looking at 100% in Lugia. That's great. And of course 61%, but very soon that will also change once we kind of specialize the provinces even more. We can even start to specialize Swabia, but for that we'll have to turn off the taxes, because we're going to build a lot of buildings for recruitment, and what that'll end up doing is it'll consume a lot of food, and right now I don't want to get rid of my food, although I could potentially get rid of some of this food from Swabia by turning it off. I'm still making 30 food, so it's not that big of a deal. However, the most important thing to note is that I'm losing quite a sizable chunk of my cash, so I really need to conquer the settlement of Chronos so that I can really buff up the economy over here in Lugia. However, with that, let's go ahead, attack this army. It's an easy auto resolve, but we haven't fought any battle so far in this episode, so let's just quick save over here, hop into the battle, and I will see you all in the battle. Of course, we are going to be fighting in the night to inflict that morale penalty on the enemy army. Alright guys, welcome to the battle against the Aestii. We have managed to assassinate their general, and we have split up our forces all around their fortification. Unfortunately, they decide to sally out towards us, and we realize immediately that we are going to be outnumbered. The plan over here was to use my archers on all sides so that I could burn down their towers and then assault the fort. However, I realized very quickly that I'm in a bit of a pickle situation, so I kind of pull my archers back, realizing that they are going to keep pushing towards my army, and we're going to be outnumbered here, so they're going to have a localized numerical superiority. So as you can see, all the way in the back we are starting to move our cavalry around the fortification to kind of assist our outnumbered troops over here. Meanwhile, we're doing the same with our other troops over here. We're starting to move them, trying to screen the enemy, trying to mirror their movements so that we can get rid of them. The biggest trouble in this battle is of course going to be their skirmisher cavalry, because we don't really have a counter to that, with the exception of course of our archers, and they basically have 3 of those units. One is on their left flank, the other one on the right flank, all the way over there as you can see, and of course the makeshift generals unit is also a javelin unit. So what we are going to try to do over here is we're going to try to exchange javelin volleys with them, and infantry units with javelins are going to be way more powerful in the skirmish against enemy missile cavalry, because you know, missiles actually have a huge impact, especially javelins. They have a huge impact on cavalry units. As you can see, we have already managed to take out quite a sizable chunk of the makeshift general, and he is now charging towards our front lines. So our front lines over here mainly consisting of our Cherusci pikemen. Currently we're just waiting and trying to see how the enemy forms up over here. You can see in the distance my cavalry is making a move towards of course my left flank. However, unfortunately they have a uncontested cavalry in the region. Realizing that I'm severely outnumbered, I have spread my formation into a very thin formation. I do not recommend doing this as it kind of allows for weak points in the formation. And now a lot of players, I do see they use this, and it does have its merits. One of the things is that you can hold back a lot of enemies at once, but one of the major drawbacks, of course, is if you form a very narrow, if even one unit breaks up, then that's going to create a huge gap in your front lines that can be exploited. However, if they are close by to each other, then it's unlikely that they will you know, waver as far as their morale is concerned, because you have a lot less troops you know, facing off against the enemy, and a lot less troops dying as a result of that. However, on that left flank, this cavalry thankfully is a missile cavalry and doesn't decide to charge my archers. I have gone ahead and put up my general right in front of him to act as a screening force to protect my archers, and I should actually over here try to, you know, reuse my archers to fire into this unit. However, I sent a couple of cavalry units to chase down that cavalry. Meanwhile, all the way on the right flank, we have dispatched all of the enemy cavalry. So now we're trying to make our maneuvers around the enemy and try to hit them in the flanks. As you can see, the front line is more or less stabilized, and there you have it, a cavalry charge. This is pretty much what we're trying to do. We're trying to break the morale of the Aestii as much as we can. Of course, this battle isn't being fought as ideally as I would have liked it to, and that is because the enemy actually decided to force my hand by attacking a significantly smaller portion of my army. So that's a risk that could happen. Meanwhile, over here I decide to pull my archers back out because I noticed one of their melee troops is giving chase. I have managed to, you know, set on fire at least 2 of their watchtowers, so we're hoping that it will, you know, burn out. However, this entire engagement is more or less useless. Nothing much happens over here for the entirety of the battlefield, which is not very ideal. However, as you can see, the enemy front line is not able to break my pike walls, and of course they are being fired by our archers as well, which is kind of helping to diminish or break their morale. However, we are still trying to fire into the enemy side, as often our left flank is severely overwhelmed. Meanwhile, our cavalry units over there has dispatched that missile cavalry, so things are looking quite good. We managed to stabilize the situation. Now we are just trying to wipe out the enemy army, and as you can see, the fear factor of the Sweboz army is causing a mass rout as soon as, of course, they realize that they are numerically you know, outnumbered over here. Of course, I do not chase these units because there's just too many of them. I just go ahead and end the battle instantly, and basically what that does is it auto resolves the route for me, and hopefully we get a good route, and we are able to push our offensive and wipe out the army of the Aestii, thereby leaving the conquest of Chronos for the taking. However, with that, I'm gonna go ahead, end this battle, and I will see you all in the campaign. Alright, with that we have won ourselves a decisive victory against the Aestii. We didn't choose to pursue their army. We're just going to enslave all of the captives. They're going to push deeper into their territory. However, we are just going to give chase. We're going to move forward as close as possible. We can auto-resolve this one. And yes, we've gotten rid of the Aestii for now, at least the army. And therefore we have gotten rid of their capacity to wage war against us, and their settlement is ripe for the taking. They might even in fact just opt for a peaceful end to this conflict now that they don't have an army. Yep, just as I expected, and they will pay us quite sizably for it. Peace treaty, confederation, let's say 2,400, 3,000. Excellent. So we've kind of peacefully united the whole of Germania, with the exception, of course, of Vistula, which is going to be quite obviously our next target. Let's go ahead, put this guy on patrol stance so that he kind of replenishes a bit quicker. We're going to go for the Chieftains Chosen because it gives that +1 weapon damage inflicted. Then we are going to go for the Wolves of Tivas, of course. The morale for the enemies is also good. The 9 attack and skill is also pretty good. So let's actually go for the morale first. And then for the future, we're going to focus, of course, on leveling up the Chieftains Chosen, the Indomitable Infantry, of course, the Wolves of the North, and the Hearth Bearguard to improve all of our melee attack and defense skills as much as we possibly can. And then we can start filling up some of the more or the less useful trees. Of course, we can also focus on the formidable fighters as well. This is quite good. Apart from that, I think I am done with this turn. Of course, we are going to dismantle some of the buildings that we don't need, and we are going to focus on moving our armies westwards towards Vistula, and I will see you all in the future when we are ready to attack the settlement of Vistula, declare a war against the Inguiones. Speaking of the Inguiones, we still have some agreements with them, so we might want to break them off, but I will break them off as soon as I, kind of approach a bit closer to them, because I don't want them to turn hostile towards me and attack me instead. So yeah, I guess with that we're done with this turn, and I will see you all in the future. However, just by conquering Chronos, you can see our income has increased quite significantly. Lugia is now making 5,175 denarii per turn, but what we can do is we can cancel some of the edicts in some of the provinces. Let's go ahead and put the Cell Slaves edict over there. Meanwhile, we can cancel the edict over here, and instead we can assign the Commercial Stimulation edict in Lugia. Alright guys, welcome to the future. Let's just select all of the notifications, turn them off. Faction has been destroyed, sign up. Unfortunately, we have our spy over here down south in the region. We're just going to keep moving him all across the Black Sea so that we get a line of sight of what's going on down south over there. Possibly the Hague can get in a trade agreement with us. Unfortunately, they can't. So we're just basically going to try to move all the way across the Black Sea in a counterclockwise fashion, discover all of the factions over here, and then head back into Sarmatia, back into our home territory. As you can see, we're starting to look quite consolidated in Germania. The only remaining tribe is the Inguiones, which we are going to declare war against in this turn, of course. But before we do that, let us have a quick look at our settlements. All of our settlements are building up quite fine. We can go ahead and upgrade the settlement of Ascaucalis, since the taxation has been turned off in Swabia, and we are speccing it to be our recruitment province, of course. And if we take a look at our economy is looking quite good. Our food is looking decent. It's about that 20 food that we need to get the maximum growth rate. Treasury is pretty decent at around 20,000 denarii, and of course we are now making 10,000 denarii per turn. And of course I did disband Harja's 3 Katijos because I want to get yet another Governor General over here, and we're going to select Hildebrand, and we're going to raise an army for Hildebrand, put him up over there in the settlement of Gelenos, and we will rename it into the Tudonas of Gelenos. So let's just go ahead and do that real quick. There we go. And yeah, with that our taxation has slightly improved as well. Should be making 8,000 denarii. That's quite good. So now, how do we go ahead and attack these guys? Now, we could attack Vistula directly. Maybe both armies can reach the settlement, and they cannot. So what we are going to do is we're just going to move a little bit closer. It's going to be winter in the next turn, unfortunately, which means we won't be able to reach Vistula. We could just fight them off and have a really grand battle over here. But this army's taken some attrition. No, it's their army that has taken attrition. What we could do is we could send our spy over there again, just get a line of sight. Can we be close enough to the settlement? We could possibly get close enough to the settlement. So the best course of action would be to assassinate this character. If we are successful, which we aren't, then we are going to fight a battle, try to wipe out that army, and then we are going to push towards Vistula itself. However, with that, a quick look at our politics. Politics seems to be fine. We can educate a character. fact, we can educate 2 characters, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. Although it's not ideal because you're getting incremental cost for doing so, but I don't really mind. We are also going to organize some games and get some food as well, so as to improve the gravitas of characters that are low in gravitas. Our children are coming of age soon enough. In about 20 turns or so they should come of age, so we really need some gravitas to build up over here so that we can level them up quite efficiently. However, with that, of course, I think we're done as far as the turn is concerned, but we are going to declare war against the Inguiones. Quick look to see if we will get any diplomatic penalty hit for doing so. We will, but I don't really care. Should be able to deal with the situation quite effectively. So let's just go ahead, declare this war, and we are going to get a diplomatic hit. We are unreliable, unfortunately. They're retreating, but now it's going to be quite a evenly matched battle. We're going to go into a night battle to inflict that morale penalty. Quick save the game, hop into the battle, and I will see you all in the battle. Alright, here we are. We're facing off against the Inguiones. We have gone ahead and arrayed our troops in a very unique kind of a formation. I'm not entirely happy with my army composition, but just a quick summary. We have our cavalry on the flanks, of course. Meanwhile, our Cherusci spearmen are forming the core center. They are behind them. We have a bunch of our Germanic archers, as well as of course our veteran skirmishers. We have our general on that left flank, of course, and of course on either immediate flanks we have our fear units, such as of course the champions of Tivas, the Arii Night Stalkers, and the Arii and Night Spearmen, or Night Walkers and Night Strikers, really. However, let's turn off the foliage. Let's get a look at and see what's going on over here. The enemy seems to be a little bit passive, so that's not going to be good for my pikemen. And once again, with the Cherusci pikemen, I kind of spread them out, kind of realizing that my front line is severely, you know, at a risk of being outflanked. So I kind of spread them out. I position my Swaby veteran youth or veteran skirmishers over there to kind of dissuade the enemy from attacking the flanks of my front line. Of course, if they choose to do that, then they're going to be in big trouble. And now that I realize that this unit is actually charging towards the flanks, you can see that we are getting javelin shots into their unshielded side. So this is a very good way of course, protecting the flanks of your phalanx units, by basically positioning some skirmishers around, because the enemy really is going to have to deal with that situation. Meanwhile, my cavalry is not doing much. They're trying to encircle the enemy, but as of now there's a lot of enemy troops that are in the way of things, so I'm not able to charge into their weaker missile infantry. However, I do start to notice some sort of openings, and I'm getting a little bit impatient, so I decide to charge anyways. All the way on the left flank we have a little bit of an isolated unit. What we are going to try to do is we're going to try to use our Arii Night Walkers, as well as of course our Arii Night Strikers, to kind of sandwich and rout out this unit. However, as you can see, the unit that kind of tried to attack the flanks of my pikemen completely routed, so that's great. And I have decided to give chase with my champions of Tivas, crashing into the Germanic tribesmen. The Germanic tribesmen are basically a Levy tier unit, so they shouldn't be able to do much against, of course, the champions of Tivas, which is a noble elite kind of a sphere unit. On the right flank, we are also going to try to encircle the enemy. However, we have a lot of situations where enemies have pinned down our flanking troops. We do have a single unit of Arii Night Strikers that are free. So what are we going to do is we're going to try to assist these units first before we attempt to assist our pikemen, of course. And by doing that, then you pretty much free up all 3 units to, you know, charge into the rear of the pike units. However, our cavalry is pretty much trying to, you know, wipe out all of the weaker enemy infantry units. And all the way on that left flank, as you can see, our Arii warriors are basically fighting it out tooth and nail. And they have managed to successfully break this unit. And they will in fact get a lot of kills over here just by this unit retreating. We're starting to see some more units retreating, and that's just the effect of Germanic fear. And what we have right now is, since we have exhausted our ammunition with our Swaby veteran skirmishers, we are charging them into the battle, because keep in mind they have actually pretty decent melee stats. As you can see, they have a melee attack of, I'm sorry, it's like shifting. Okay, so they have a melee attack of 16, melee defense of 19, overall weapon damage of 30, 6 of which is armor piercing, so it's really good unit to have. The only thing they're possibly lacking is their armor. Of course, our cavalry is now trying to perform a lot of charges. Meanwhile, on the right flank, we have freed up our fear unit, so we're going to go ahead, charge into the enemy rear in the center, and we're going to try to break the entire enemy army with this charge. As you can see, more and more the enemy units are retreating. We have a lot of them retreating all the way in the back, some of them regaining their morale, and they will join the fight again. However, if we break the core of the enemy army, it's most likely that they will also break, so I'm not too bothered about giving chase. What I am worried about is like crushing the morale of the troops that are still engaged in the battle, of course. And I do notice that the enemy general is over here, so I'm going to try my level best to pretty much attack him, because if I get the general out of the battle, that will deal a significant morale blow to the enemy army, and we can pretty much claim a victory over here. So we are charging in our Arii Knight Strikers into the flanks of the general. Of course, he is going to be attacked. Immediately his his fellow compatriots kind of run away, and of course now that the general is wavering, as you can see, the entire army is wavering. With that, we have won yet another very decisive victory, this time against the Inguiones, of course. Once again, we're not going to chase down or rout out the enemy units. I decide to end the battle right away because we are in our territory, and so is that army deep within our territory in Ascaucalis, which means I can pursue and exterminate him from the campaign, and then I can focus my attention to conquering Vistula in the turns to come. And we have scored a decisive victory against the Inguiones. We will wipe out their army because they did retreat. We're gonna enslave all of the captives. A lot of our shock troops did actually really well, scoring a minimum of 200 kills each. And when I mean our shock troops, I mean of course our Arii Night Stalkers, our champions, as well as of course our Arii Night Walkers. We're gonna move as close towards Vistula as possible, and we are going to go into a fortified stance to help with our replenishment. And in the turns to come, we're going to push for Vistula. We've managed to get a significant momentum advantage. We could have left that army intact, however we're not going to do that. We are going to peacefully occupy the settlement of Vistula as well. Not really peacefully occupied, but try to confederate it, so that of course we get all of the population of Vistula itself, 8,100. That is absolutely insane. However, with that, I'm going to go ahead, end the turn, and I will see you all in the future when I'm ready to attack Vistula and wipe out the Inguiones, establishing myself as the firm High Chieftain of Germania. Alright, welcome to what could possibly be the last turn of this episode. Some characters have increased in rank. Our Governor Generals, let's go ahead, give him the City Governor, some public order as well. And we can go into the view character, perhaps even promote him. Unfortunately we can't. And the other character is our new dignitary over here. We're going to set her up, of course get the goldsmith that gives 8% industry faction wide. And of course the public order as well. We are going to focus on the public orator as well as the economist, because we are going to spec up to be a research and cultural conversion dignitary. Meanwhile, we've dismantled the amber market in Rugion. We are going to go ahead and build a shaman's hut because we are going to maximize our growth rate in the province of Swabia itself. Of course, the Vistula is completely undefended because they kind of have abandoned the settlement. So we are going to try and see if we can actually end up reaching there. Unfortunately, we took a bit of attrition in the end turn, or the turn between turns, because it was a harsh winter in Swabia. We are going to go ahead and see if we can perhaps attack them. So let's actually move all the way up close. Go ahead. We can auto-resolve this one, and we can sack the settlement. I wonder if we can reach a little bit ahead. No, we cannot. So we're going to quick check our Imperium level. We're quite a ways off from Imperium level 4, so we can initiate peace talks over here. And they will join our confederation, which is great news. Will they pay us for it? And they will. And there we have it, guys. We have unified the entirety of Germania. We are now the High Chieftain of Germania, of course. With that, we have conquered the final settlement of Vistula, of course, and we have inherited their massive population as well. What we are going to do is see which army has taken more casualties, and this army can technically replenish within 1 turn if they go in patrol stance. Meanwhile, this army needs a couple more turns, so we can actually put him into the settlement. And we can repair all of the buildings, get rid of the buildings we don't need. We're going to build an outpost, which eventually becomes a migration center that gives +8 growth per turn. We are also going to build a shaman's hut that gives another +8 growth per turn. And we're going to keep stacking that across the entire province so that we maximize our growth per turn, of course. And just a quick look at, of course, our economy is starting to really, catch or fly off over here. You can see that Lugia is making 10,000 denarii per turn. We have 12,000 denarii net income per turn, 37,000 denarii in the bank, of course. And all of our provinces are looking fine. Food might end up becoming an issue quite soon, especially considering that we are upgrading these buildings. So I think we have to unfortunately go ahead and upgrade some of our farms. Now the reason I don't like upgrading them is because they do give that -4 public order per turn, which is quite hefty. But we have to kind of try to manage our public order and keep our food at a healthy level. We want it to be at level 20. As in the game, a lot of provinces grow really fast, especially in the Italian peninsula, the Fertile Crescent, of course, and even Egyptos, Africa. Basically the historical provinces that were really, focused or really massive in terms of population and fertility. Of course, you have the Hellenic world as well, but when it comes to the Germanic regions, they have one of the slowest growth rates per turn, so you really have to maximize your growth rate to build up your provinces really quick, unlock some of these settlement buildings so that you can further increase your growth rate, and then you just keep snowballing until you can make a your provinces max out so that you can get the maximum amount of economy, the maximum amount of food, the maximum amount of manpower, of course, and so forth. A quick look at our politics. Politically, we seem to be quite fine. Just a quick look at some of the characters. Of course, we have some interesting traits that we can offer them, and none as of yet, but we can send some characters on missions, and that's exactly what we are going to do. We're going to improve the public order in Swabia, although we don't need to, but we are going to do it simply because we need the extra gravitas. Meanwhile, we can't educate anyone really, so what we are going to do over here is we are going to end the turn, and in fact I think we should actually end the episode because we have played and we have achieved quite a lot. And just going forward, of course, we have two major options of expansion. Of course, the Nori to our south, Raetia at Noricum, we can take over that province, and the other option is probably even Germania Minor, and a third option, of course, is Pannonia itself. They each have different advantages. Raetia at Noricum is a 4-region province, so as such it can be a really good military recruitment province like Swabia, thereby spreading our military recruitment between 2 provinces, so we'll gain another military recruitment provinces. Meanwhile, the province of Pannonia is really good because, as I explained earlier, it does have another timber settlement, which will mean our economy will really get buffed up. On top of that, we will be able to initiate trade with some of the landlocked countries or factions over here, such as, of course, the Dardanoi as well as the Dalmate. So that might also improve our economy even further. We might even get access to some of these Daco-Thracian tribes if they still exist. Unfortunately, they do not. It seems the Scordisci are pretty powerful. Yeah, unfortunately, we might have to fight them. And of course, the last option is Germania Minor itself. That will give us access into, of course, Gallia. Gallia is yet another rich province itself. It can be another major industrial province because you have lead as a resource, you have timber, yet another timber province, so it's kind of got the same benefits of taking over Pannonia. And apart from that, you also get a port over here with no resources, which means you can build both industrial buildings over there. And of course, Bebracte is a special settlement in the game. There are very few special settlements in the game. Bebracte, Roma, Massilia, Athens, Sparta, just to name a few. So Bibracte will have really good benefits over Gallia, and what that does, especially conquest of Gallia, is kind of prevents the Roman from gaining some influence in the region. But more importantly, the Iceni have grown quite big, and if I kind of ignore them, they might expand into the Gallic world. And eventually I do want to take over Britannia for myself, because Britannia, guys, is one of the best food provinces in the entire game. It's got like 3 ports. That means you can have 3 fishing ports, and you can have as many farms as you want. But more importantly, we're going to focus on cattle pens in Britannia, and let me explain why, guys. Because if you take a look at Casurgis, for example, the maximum level of farms is giving me 16 food. However, the maximum level of centralized ranch gives me 8 food, so that's like 8 food less, right? However, if you have ports like how you have it in Britannia, and you have cattle ranches, right, and most importantly, and this is why trade with Roma is important, if you build the salt workshop, you get +4 food from fishing ports and +4 food from livestock ranches for the entire province. So you can basically stack cattle pens, fishing ports, and even salt workshops, and then you will make an insane amount of food. So potentially you could have 4 salt workshops, right, which will give 4 times 3 fishing ports, so that's 12 food additionally to what you're already making from those fishing ports. And you will have another 3 cattle pens, so that's another 4 times 3. So just by that you are getting another 12 food from the cattle pens. So pretty much you are getting a total of 24 food from just the salt workshops alone. And speaking of the salt workshops, of course, they also give sanitation in the region and so forth, so they're really, really good as a optional building, especially in a food province as powerful as Britannia. In fact, I have made as far as I can remember 100 to 120 food in Britannia alone, which is actually insane, guys. However, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and end the episode. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you like the video, then like the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you are interested for more. Peace and love.